Thank you, Liz and WKRC, for that story. Joining me now is pandemic expert Dr. Dena Grayson. Thank you, doctor, for coming back and joining us, especially on this new news week. What's this about a mutation?
Well, there does appear to be a mutation in the virus. This is something that was reported originally from China quite early in the outbreak in the pandemic. And the mutation is in the spike protein. This is the surface protein that kind of coats the surface of the virus. And what it appears to do is it allows the virus to be more contagious, to enter cells more easily. That's the bad news. Now, the kind of the silver lining, if there is one here, is it doesn't appear to make the virus more deadly or cause more severe illness. And it doesn't appear to potentially affect immunity or a vaccine, but it does appear to allow this virus, sadly, to spread more easily.
I think I ask you this every week, Dr. Dena. Do we know for sure, one way or the other, whether an infected person, someone who has the antibody, can get reinfected, even with maybe with this mutation?
We don't know that for certain, Eric, but it's highly, highly likely that if you have antibodies to the virus, you are likely immune to getting sick from the virus. You could get, just like with the flu or any other virus, you could be quote unquote infected, but you would clear the virus very, very quickly. So it does appear that convalescent plasma also would be effective against this mutated virus as well.
All right, Dr. Dena, as if 2020 hasn't been bad enough. Bubonic plague, really?
I had the exact same reaction, Eric, when I read this news. I'm like, what is going on here in 2020? Yes, unfortunately, there was a case in China of the bubonic plague. Now, this is not a virus. That's the good news here. This is something transmitted by infected fleas on rodents. It does happen from time to time. The plague is still around. It's spread by a bacteria called Yersinia pestis. That's not something where I think we here in the United States really should be overly worried. It's not something that can be readily spread through the air like coronavirus, but it is one of those, you roll your eyes and go, my goodness, what else is going to happen this year?
Yeah, and one of the things I think has become a very hot topic, President Trump has weighed in on it, and others have pushed back on President Trump, reopening schools. What do you say, Doc? Bad idea, good idea? What do you think?
Well, we have 5 kids, and believe me, we would really like our kids to be back in school. However, unfortunately, right now in the United States, we're averaging over 50,000 new cases every day. So we are a hot zone, and we're seeing just this continued rise in the number of cases. So I think this really, we talked about this last week on the show, Eric. I really think this has to be not just school district by district, but actually school by school. And if there's an area of the country where there aren't a lot of cases, you could potentially think about reopening sort of voluntary for those people that want or need to send their kids back to a physical school, with them wearing masks and trying to be as physically apart as possible. But otherwise, given the situation for the most of the country right now, I think it's a very dangerous proposition.
In normal circumstances, this whole issue of foreign students coming over to the United States, coming to our school, I'd be concerned, but I think we're more infected than any other country in the world, so maybe that's not an issue. Should we worry about students coming from other countries and bringing infection back to the U.S.?
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Eric. I think with some rare exceptions like maybe Brazil, we are really the hottest zone in the world right now. And remember, it's summer. Things are likely going to get much, much worse in the fall and winter as we approach the school year. So if I were a parent overseas, I would be nervous about sending my child here to go to school. It's a much more dangerous, unfortunately, than much of the world.
Just about a half a minute or so. Again, I'll ask you again. What about this idea of let's just get this virus through the population and get it over, the herd immunity, so to speak. When we were kids, you say eat some dirt because you'll grow immune to some of the bacteria. Don't we need to get infected and get it over with? 30 seconds.
Well, if we do that, I think what we're going to see is a very sharp spike in hospitalizations like we saw in New York City. Hospital systems got overwhelmed, people died at home, and the mortality rate will skyrocket. I think that's a near certainty, unfortunately.
All right, Dr. Dena Grayson, we're going to have one of these weeks where we get some really good news. I can't wait for that week. We come back to the pandemic expert. Dr. Dena, appreciate your time. Thank you.